In today's prop photography showdown, we'll be comparing these high-end, luxurious, built specifically for product photography props to these things I found at Dollarama. Hey guys, we're going to be building some new props today. I thought this would be a great example to kind of put these side by side between these Dollarama found shapes versus these very expensive pieces of equipment. They're kind of a staple in any product photographer's studio, but I'd like to know if it's really necessary to have something that's built specifically for it, or if we can just make do with stuff like this. So I tend to use these resin boxes when I know there's going to be a spill or liquid or anything that I know I can clean up, because these are just basically sealed and are very easy to clean, even though some of these are pretty dirty right now. Whereas something like this is so cheap that you can just use it once and then recycle it or find another use for it. If you can get away with buying 40 of these boxes, which for $2, by the way, you're getting 2 boxes, or at least 2 shapes, can you really notice the difference? Does it save you time in your editing? Another thing about these boxes is that they're perfect. They're seamless and they have a perfect layer of paint all throughout them. So it keeps it much easier in Photoshop. It saves you a bunch of time in editing. You don't have to spend time specifically on a box. You can take a photo and give it right to the client. It'll be ready. However, something like this is very dependent on your painting skills and your sanding skills and all that. So for me specifically, I am terrible at painting. So these boxes have remained white, even though I know I can keep repainting them and using them for a variety of shoots. I've just left them as white because I know that they're perfect and I'll never be able to recreate that same perfectness. With these boxes here, today we're gonna paint one of these white and we're gonna paint another one of these this nice sea spray color here. We'll also be doing one of these boxes with gyps over here that just kind of creates a texture that we're gonna paint over. I know usually this is to seal in holes, but we're gonna specifically make texture with this. Kind of like on this surface that I have right here, you might see some close-ups from this angle. But yeah, let's just get into it and I'll leave a couple tips and tricks while we're painting and let's dive in. All right, so we're gonna start with a quick layer on all of these just as a base coat. What you want to use is a brush like this over here. You want to use one of these that creates a nice even texture. When you have something with bristles, it just kind of tends to leave streaks all over that you'll end up retouching later. So I've found that using these little disposable things are the best so far. I've already pre-sanded these and we're just gonna go straight ahead. No primer, nothing. This is dollar paint, also from Dollarama, so this whole total is going to be like $4. Don't need to worry about doing anything fancy. I'm just trying to go bare bones, as simple as possible. How much can we get away with compared to these very expensive options? So, white paint on our surface. That simple. And we go. So we're going to do one white. We're going to do one gyps with white, and we're also going to do 2 in that seafoam color that I think is very pretty. For a big shape like this, maybe a slightly larger brush would have been nice, but it's all right. First coat, you just want a nice thin layer. Thing is, with these cheap wooden shapes here, oh, I'm dripping. These cheap wooden shapes here will be often very porous, so they're just gonna kind of soak up a lot of that first layer anyway. So you just mostly want to fill in those pores, essentially, what we're doing here. Not trying to reinvent the wheel here, just get her on there and get her done. So for this gyps layer, we're actually, this is pretty heavy. We're actually gonna use a knife over here. And we're just gonna scrape on a couple layers, let them dry, ideally overnight, but I'm hoping I could paint it later today, and I'll just paint the white over it and we'll go from there. We're not doing anything fancy. I also grabbed this serrated knife so I could try to add these kind of ribbed textures here. We're actually gonna use a lot more than that. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna try to do something like a fluted background. Just spreading as much as I can here, just like Nutella on toast. And the thinner, the quicker it's gonna dry. But I'm not looking to patch up a hole here, you know? You don't need it to be the world's sturdiest thing, it just needs to be a backdrop that looks cool. Needs to hold up paint, that's it. This is something I definitely would not try on the fancy ones over here, just because there's no guarantees, and I'd rather do it on something that's $2 instead of $100, you know what I mean? Open this guy back up. Do you guys do this with your Cheez Whiz and butter and all that stuff? My brother would get mad about it when I was young, but you know, I was also leaving a bunch of crumbs and stuff in there, so, you know. And we'll see what that's like later today. Hopefully that'll be all right. I'm gonna leave this down here. There's our little result over here so far. Let's see if see how that dries, huh? All right, so I just painted these ones off camera. First coat has had a chance to dry here. We're gonna do a second coat on these, try to get everything as even as possible. The gyps one so far also looks not so bad. It definitely dried whiter, and to be honest, I thought it was gonna take till tomorrow, but it looks like it'll be all right. There's a couple like crusty bits on top that I'm just gonna try to shake off before it dries up too much. Not bad. How does that look? All right. I'm not gonna paint this one right away, but I'm gonna paint it before our test shoot later, and we'll just be able to see what it might look like with the texture. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I do really like how the table turned out, so I was just trying to do something a little bit different instead of doing the same thing over and over again. But yeah, let's get to these and repaint some more. I'm just gonna get a nice, very even second layer of paint here. And again, like these are gonna be retouched anyway. We're just trying to save ourselves some time. The more we can get in camera, the more we can get back to shooting, because editing is important. Editing is a good tool. It's a tool. We're photographers. We should be able to use them to our advantage, but I think it's important to be shooting often rather than editing often. It's important to know what you can do in editing, but if you can get away with saving yourself some editing time by shooting a certain way, why not? Why not? It's such a nice color, isn't it? I'm really liking how this looks. I think one advantage of using props like these for sure is how disposable they are. You can always just recycle them and buy some new ones instead of having to repaint over, resanding again, or just buy another one and have some that just live in certain colors like I did at the start. You know, you can very easily justify spending $5 in an afternoon doing a little bit of custom painting, especially when you have the client that would benefit from it, you know? All right. Okay, so we're gonna let everything dry now for a little bit, now that we're done the two coats, and then we're gonna take some photos, bring them into Capture One, have a look up close and see what the difference is. So these were shot with my Fuji X Pro 3 at 1/25th of a second, f11 base ISO, just to get a black frame, and our flash here is at half power. It's an 8600 Pro from Strobe Pro, it's on camera right, and shooting into a high intensity reflector. I'll have all that linked down in the description. It's also shot on the 80mm macro. I'll link my review to this beast of a lens also down below. So at first glance, the props look all right. They definitely add dimension to the frame. I think as background props, they're totally fine and don't distract from the image. Up close though, I definitely think they'll need a little bit more work in post. Probably could have done a better job at sanding them. I don't know. What do you guys think? In this shot here, you can see the table gyps a bit better. I think the fluted style prop is definitely going to need some more work. Maybe a specific tool to get the ridges instead of a kitchen knife next time. I think in a pinch, they definitely work just as good as the expensive props, but I don't know, they definitely need a little bit more work as well. What do you guys think? Are the fancy name brand props worth it for you? Let me know down in the comments. And that's it guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new from this video. If you did, maybe consider giving it a like or subscribe, it really helps support the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.